Revealed. 7 haunting rules that keep night shift workers alive in a bone-chilling Wyoming anomaly. The miners say the air inside the Wyoming coal mine thickens with secrets. A veil of dust hanging like a shroud over everything. On nights like this, whispers of the past echo against the rough walls, echoing the fearful warnings handed down for generations. Always honor the 7 rules. Each rule told over steaming cups of coffee, the laughter teasing out the chill around the lunch table. But beneath the humor, no one ever truly laughs. It's all part of the mind's grip. Emily, a single mother, adjusts her hard hat as uncertainty hangs in her throat like smoke. She sets her jaw, the determination of a lioness, not letting the indifference of the mind, this ancient beast, consume her spirit. She thinks of Sam, who asks about his father, the void stretching between them, like the mind's dark tunnels that twist and turn into an abyss. Tonight, Emily needs to be strong not just for her boy, but for her crew who trust her to lead, even in the face of dread. Something feels different deep inside the mine. There's a weight that presses down like sorrow in her lungs. As she and her co-workers descend, the lights flicker ominously. Footsteps echo, and shadows writhe and twist. The coal dust hangs in the air, settling like fog, and a chilling story forms in the pit of her stomach. Was that a whisper in the dark? She brushes it off, recalling the old ghost stories that always nagged at her sense of reality. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet as the night presses on, a tremor shakes the walls, igniting panic, echoing the tales of restless spirits whose cries of sorrow are woven into the very fabric of the mine itself. They huddle close, exchanging uneasy glances. The 7 rules thunder in her mind. Never split up, don't ignore the signs, and always respect the spirit of the mine. Until now, they seemed like distant ghosts of advice. Now, they pulse in their chests like a warning drum. A coworker vanishes into the dark, swallowed whole and without a trace. Fear blooms, suffocating them. Yet Emily feels the need to ground her companions, to stand firm against the dark. She becomes their anchor as they almost crumble under the weight of shadows, voices whispering, cold drafts curling around them, a foreboding reminder of the mine's dominion. Emily takes charge. She cannot let fear devour them alive. The cold fingers of dread crawl over her, but determination fuels her. Emily summons every ounce of courage to unite their fracturing group. The mine's lore wraps around them, tightening like a noose while revealing more depth about its twisted history. Threats wrapped in whispers. Each encounter drags them deeper into the dark. Just then, silence falls heavier than stone. In this profound quiet, the stakes appear impossibly high, and the chasm of uncertainty yawns before her. Is the prosperity of their town worth sacrificing another soul? In this parallax of discovery and terror, Emily stands at a precipice, asking what must be given up when faced with the chilling threat, the true heart of the mine stirring awake just out of reach. What darkness lies beyond, waiting for them to venture further into its shadowy grasp? A crack echoed through the mine, sharp enough to rattle teeth and strike fear into their already quaking hearts. The tremors that had quaked through moments before felt like harbingers of something malevolent awakening. Emily's breathing came in shallow gasps. She could sense the dread pooling around her like water at the bottom of an unseen well. Did you hear that? Tim's voice quivered. What was that? Her co-workers turned their faces toward her, looking for answers in her determined glare. Emily dared to move, one careful step followed by another, guided by her instincts as her heart thundered. We need to regroup. Right now, she commanded, trying to drown out the anxiety creeping into her voice. Stay close, everyone, and stick to the path. The shadows elongated as their brother, one of them, had vanished into the black void, leaving nothing but a hollow silence and his heavy tools behind. The coal dust stirred around her ankles, and the very walls seemed to constrict, closing in on them. If the mine wanted to feed, it had to be satisfied first. "Hurry," Emily urged, desperation leaking into her tone. They formed a tight-knit cluster, heads bowed as they scurried deeper into the abyss. As they pressed on, each step felt heavier, as if the ground beneath them was drinking in their fear. Emily could feel the adrenaline climbing, a bitter taste simmering in her stomach. Suddenly, a shrill scream pierced through the silence. The sound clawed at her ears, freezing her momentarily as the blood drained from her face. It echoed, reverberating against the damp walls before dissipating into the gloom. It was the kind of scream that wouldn't just fade, it lingered, a ghost fused to the very air they breathed. "Dave!" Emily shouted, recognizing the anguished sound as belonging to their lost friend. A wave of panic surged through her. "Where are you?" No response. Just the deafening pulse of silence. Fear blossomed as they made their way in the direction of the scream. "This isn't right," Amy whispered, her voice trembling. The darkness felt alive, shifting, crawling over their skin. A chill wound its way through Emily's veins. Just when she thought she couldn't feel more dread, a low rumble sent vibrations beneath their feet, brushing against their souls like a warning. Suddenly, flickering shadows enveloped them, and Emily swiveled abruptly, looking over her shoulder. Were they watching? She couldn't shake the feeling that 1,000 eyes pierced through the darkness, studying their every movement. "Keep moving," she urged, but her voice quavered with uncertainty. The darkness thickened, swirling like a tempest and obscuring the path ahead. "We have to find the way out." Then, as if the mine had spoken, a distant whisper floated through the stifling air, words layered in anguish that spiraled around them like cold tendrils. "Leave now." Emily's heart raced. She could no longer ignore the warning brewing in her gut. "This way," she said, pressing onward, trying to fight the panic threatening to bubble over. The passage ahead twisted ominously, and a deeper darkness loomed as they approached where Dave had screamed. The thought of him sending shivers down her spine with each step. The air thickened, tightening its grip like a noose. And just as a glimmer of light appeared at the end of the tunnel, a shadow darted from the depths, a silhouette flickering, a quick flash of agony and despair. As that figure faded into the darkness, Emily's breath hitched. What was that? She choked out in terror. The weight of words screamed in her mind. The 7 rules resurfacing. Had they been broken? Emily turned to her crew, eyes wide. "We're not alone. We have to find Dave now." With that urgency coursing through her veins, she sprinted towards the flickering light ahead, knowing instinctively that they teetered on the edge of something unspeakably dark. But what awaited them in the mine's depths? And could they find their lost companion before the shadows closed in completely? The flickering light drew them relentlessly, sparking tiny embers of hope against the suffocating blackness. Emily pushed forward, her legs pounding against the unforgiving ground. Each step churned the fear roiling within her, but she forced it down. They needed to stay focused. "Keep close," she shouted over her shoulder, glancing back at Tim and Amy, their faces pale and strained. Tim's eyes darted nervously toward the deepening shadows on the walls, while Amy trembled, clutching at the pickaxe that felt more like a protection than a tool. The air grew thicker still, crawling with dread and uncertainty. "It's gone silent," Amy whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Too silent." "That's not good." Daniel, another crew member, murmured, his face ashen. Just then, a sudden gust of wind howled through the cavern, carrying a low, sinister timbre that seemed to sap their strength. It enveloped them, swirling around, tugging at their very souls. Emily's heart raced. "We need to check the light." The passageway twisted dramatically, a claiming maw ready to swallow them whole. As they approached the soft glow, it flickered again, reducing hope to mere shadow. And then, to their horror, they stumbled upon an empty machinery station. "It's just a lantern," Tim stammered, taking a step back in disbelief. "What happened to the person here? Where's Dave?" A sickening feeling settled in Emily's stomach. "We're wasting time. We need to split up. Search this area." "No," Amy protested, terror flickering in her eyes. We can't be apart." Flashes of the dark silhouette flashed through Emily's mind. The memory collided with the growing noise around them, the scraping sound, as if the mine itself was awake, taking on a life of its own. "Stay together, but we have to find him," Emily insisted, forcing herself to remain strong even as screams echoed in her mind. "We'll cover more ground." One by one, nods of reluctance passed among the group. It was settled. Each person took a deep breath and clung tighter to the fragments of their resolve before fanning out, slipping into the tomb-like darkness, which seemed to watch their every move. Emily's footsteps seemed louder than ever, each tap reverberating like a warning through the hollowed earth. She could only hope that, somehow, Dave was okay. Just as she reached the far end of the chamber, her flashlight revealed something in the corner, an ominous shape, indistinguishable at first. She moved closer, heart thumping, the flickering light revealing a pair of heavy work boots, and then she saw the ground beneath. A tangled mass of dark cloth caught her eye. "Oh no," she whispered, dropping to her knees, panic clawing at her throat. As she reached out, her fingers brushed against the cool, still surface, then a loud crash sounded from the other side of the chamber. "Emily!" Tim's frantic voice echoed, desperation coating every syllable. She shot to her feet, adrenaline surging again, and sprinted toward the sound, her heart pounding ominously in her chest. The oppressive darkness clawed at her as she pushed through, fear tangling with dread as another scream rang out. A spine-chilling wail that ricocheted off the walls, a cry for help, chilling her bones. "Don't leave me, Dave!" Emily shouted, realizing it was him. But just as hope flickered in her chest, a deafening boom sounded throughout the mine, shaking the very bedrock beneath their feet. The cries of her co-workers shrieked in tandem, mingling with the infernal echo of the mine's anger. Dust billowed, obscuring her vision, and Emily staggered back, feeling the world spin around her. She braced herself against the wall as pieces of rock crumbled, falling in fragments like shrapnel. Darkness surged forth, and the light flickered again, this time extinguishing entirely. "Where are you?" she gasped, feeling her way through the suffocating darkness, clutching at nothing but fear. And then she heard it, the faintest whisper, echoing in the void. "Leave now," the mine groaned, and dread filled her veins. But she couldn't leave without him. What beast had taken hold of their friend? And as the shadows thickened and whispers grew louder, Emily understood that the mine's depths were hiding truths far more terrifying than she could ever imagine. The darkness was alive, and as it ebbed and flowed, it left her wondering who or what was demanding their exit. Emily's heart raced. Breathing heavily, she spun around, squinting into the void. The mine's whisper beckoned her, insistent and terrible. She felt the weight of the darkness pressing against her, almost as if it were a palpable force trying to snuff her out. "What was that?" she whispered to herself, voice quaking as silence swallowed her words. "Dave!" she called again, desperation lacing her tone. Just as she took a step forward, she felt something brush against her ankle, cold and unyielding. She froze. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she couldn't. Her breath caught in her throat as she shifted her foot slightly, and the rough texture of rock met her heel again, harder this time, as if warning her to stay still. "Emily!" The voice called again, more distant now. Panic unfurled in her chest like a flower blooming in haste. "Don't leave me." It was Dave, but where exactly was he? Gingerly, she bent down, moving toward the direction of the sound. "I'm coming. Hold on," she urged, trying to mask her fear with bravado. Each step drew her deeper. The darkness seemed to whisper secrets of dread, growing thicker around her. Then, suddenly, laughter echoed through the blackness. It wasn't joyous, it was cruel. The sound warped, twisting like the mine's corridors. Goosebumps prickled her skin, and she stumbled backward, bumping into something hard. She whirled around, but nothing was there. Just darkness. Stumbling forward, panic urged her onward. "Tim! Amy!" she shouted, hoping someone would respond. But eerie silence enveloped her. making the hairs on her neck stand on end. A burst of light pierced the darkness just up ahead. Her heart skipped. Was it salvation? Hope surged as she raced toward it. But as she got closer, she halted abruptly. The light was mere reflection bouncing off something metallic, glinting ominously in the dark. She dared to lean in and glimpsed the jagged edges of broken machinery, long abandoned and rusty. Get out! The whisper returned, louder now and thick with urgency. No, she shook her head defiantly. She couldn't abandon them. Not now. I won't leave you. But the light was fading, succumbing to the terrible dread that filtered through the passages. Fire flickered behind her eyelids as she squeezed them shut for a moment, caught in the grip of despair. A guttural roar erupted from deep within the mine, causing her to jump. The vibration rippled through her bones. Emily! A distant call echoed again, this time more desperate. On instinct, she pivoted and rushed toward the sound, each step forcing her deeper into unknown horrors. Where are you? She cried again, her voice trembling. In front of her, a silhouette shifted, momentarily taking shape from the darkness. Emily squinted, instinctively reaching out. Dave? She whispered, voice faltering. The figure turned, his features obscured like a twisted nightmare. Leave, he rasped, just as the mind trembled again, as if an unseen wrath was shaking its very foundations. Stop! What's wrong? She begged, her heart pounding wildly. His empty eyes gazed right through her, drawing her closer even as the darkness pulled at her. Leave before it feeds, he growled, but just as Emily started to comprehend, a horrible screech echoed, a shrill sound that vibrated through the walls, rippling into an ear-splitting crescendo. It felt as though the mine itself roared in fury, and Emily felt the ground shift beneath her. Dave! She screamed as the world spun madly, sending dust and debris crashing down around her. No! She shouted defiantly, even as shadows surged forward, desperate to consume her. She had to escape. But somewhere in the depths of the mine, something darkness hungered for them. A beast made of shadows had awoken, and it was no longer content with merely protecting its secrets. Did they truly have what it would take to survive? As the screams of her friends merged with the cacophony of stone and shadow, Emily suddenly felt the oppressive weight of despair. They were not just fighting to find Dave. Now they were fighting for their lives. And as the mine echoed with the whispers and screams of the lost, Emily knew the horror was just beginning. What would it take to tame the living darkness? Would they discover the truth hidden within the rock? She couldn't afford to lose them all. But against the overwhelming darkness, could they find their way back to the light? Emily's world erupted into chaos. The echoes of Dave's voice mixed with a sinister howl that reverberated through the cavernous mine like a relentless storm. She stumbled back, nearly falling to the ground as dust and small rocks rained down around her. Panic surged anew as the air thickened, stretching the silence to just before the breaking point. Dave! She cried desperately, but her voice felt small against the howling dark. Her heart hammered in her chest, a relentless drumbeat urging her to flee. Yet, with no clear direction, she remained frozen, swamped by the heavy veil of shadow that threatened to devour her whole. Instinctively, Emily took a step back, her fingers grazing against the rough stone wall. The chill seeped through her gloves, making her skin crawl. What if she turned away? What if she abandoned her friends to whatever darkness dwelled within those cursed depths? No, she muttered fiercely, trying to muster strength from somewhere deep within. I will find you. With renewed determination, Emily pressed forward, twisting and turning through the winding passages. Each corner she rounded revealed nothing but more blackness, the air heavy with the scent of rust and decay. The laughter returned, wrapping around her like a noose. It was mocking, taunting her hopelessness. Help me! It was a faint whisper, one she almost missed amid the clamoring shadows. It sounded like Tim, pulling her in with its soft plea. She hurried toward it, forcing her legs to move even as uncertainty clawed at her thoughts. Tim, where are you? I'm here, he replied, his voice clearer now. Over here. Her heart lifted briefly, before a wave of dread washed over her. What if he was deep inside the mine? What if he had already succumbed to the darkness? She pressed on. Her flashlight beam danced across the rocky walls, illuminating patches of glittering mineral veins. They felt alive, pulsating as if trying to draw her closer. She suppressed a shudder. Then she saw him, a form hunched low, hidden in a narrow crevice. His hair was disheveled, face smeared with dirt. Relief surged through her. A breath she didn't know she needed escaping her lips. "Tim!" she shouted, rushing toward him. But as she reached out, he turned, his eyes wide with terror. "Emily, it's too late," he gasped, backing away from the mouth of the crevice. The shadows converged around him, swirling like an angry tempest. "You shouldn't have come." The mind trembled again, a violent shake that threatened to send her crashing to the ground. Emily felt the edges of panic gnawing at her. What's happening? "Is here," he screamed, voice raw. A deafening crack thundered through the cavern. Then silence fell like a heavy curtain. From the depths of the darkness, a low growl emerged, deep and unfathomable. It reverberated through her chest, every heartbeat syncing with the ominous sound. The shadows twisted, forming grotesque shapes that danced just beyond her sight. "Run!" Tim shouted, and Emily instinctively obeyed. She turned on her heel, darting back down the winding path, adrenaline propelling her forward. Behind her, the shadows surged, clawing for her with dark, grasping fingers. "Tim, come on," she pleaded over her shoulder. "I can't," he cried, his voice choked with despair. "Get out while you can." She felt a sharp pang of guilt echo in her chest. He wouldn't leave, and she couldn't drag him away. The shadows were closing in. Emily could feel them brushing against her heels, whispering fervently in a language she couldn't understand. But then a bright glimmer caught her attention, a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. The exit, just ahead, a break in the rocky wall glowed faintly, beckoning her like a lighthouse to a shipwrecked sailor. She bolted toward it, the darkness raging behind her. As she neared the light, an icy hand grabbed her ankle, pulling her back with a frantic jerk. "No!" she screamed, fighting against the grip. What would she have to sacrifice to escape? In that moment, as she struggled against the darkness, as her friends' voices mingled with the shadows, Emily realized the truth. It wasn't just survival at stake. It was a fight for their very souls. The light flickered, nearly extinguishing, and Emily felt an icy breath on her neck. Would she lose everything? Would the mine claim them all? Each heartbeat echoed the urgency. They needed answers, and time was slipping away. With a burst of desperate energy, she lunged for the exit. But would she be quick enough to escape the dark that hungered for them? As she reached for the glimmer, she sensed a heavy presence closing in, and the last of her breath hitched in anticipation. What awaited her beyond those shadows? Emily's hand brushed the cool surface of the rocky wall as she propelled herself forward, thoughts racing. The exit, that glowing beacon, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, urging her closer while the malevolent shadows clawed and scraped at her back. Her heart thundered in her chest, each pump fueled by dread and desperation. "Please let me out." The words slipped from her mouth in a frantic prayer, but there was no answer, only the growl, a low rumble that vibrated through the very ground beneath her feet. With a final burst of effort, she reached for the light. Her fingers grazed the edge of the crevice, the jagged stone cold against her skin. She shoved herself forward, driving her body through the narrow opening. Adrenaline coursed through her veins. But as she surrendered to the flickering illumination, doubt jabbed at her mind. What awaited outside? Suddenly, a last-ditch effort from the shadows pulled at her. She felt the grasp of something cold and ancient wrapping around her waist, tugging her back. "No!" Emily screamed, the sound breaking through the cacophony of sounds surrounding her. She resisted, adrenaline surging anew, as she snatched at the cool light. "I won't let you take me." With a primal yell, she yanked free, releasing her grip on the darkness. The shadows screeched, a sound of fury and despair. Emily stumbled forward, the bright glow engulfing her. In an instant, she was through the crevice, tumbling into the welcoming embrace of daylight. Gasping for air, Emily lay on the ground, heart thrumming. She blinked rapidly, the bright sun shocking her senses after the oppressive blackness of the mine. But she couldn't rest, not yet. Turning back, she strained her ears for any signs of Tim. Tim, Tim, are you there? She called out, but her voice echoed back alone. No reply came, only the rustle of wind and the distant chirping of birds. Mocking her, beneath the sun's gentle warmth, panic erupted anew. Shouldn't he feel so quiet? The shadows couldn't just be gone. Not after what she had felt down there. She forced herself to stand and approach the mine's entrance, her feet heavy with dread. Tim, she yelled again, her voice desperate. The mouth of the mine loomed ominously. The darkness within whispered seductively, luring her closer. She shook her head, unwilling to succumb to its pull. Just as she turned to retreat, she heard it, a distant echo, a sound that brought a chill to her bones. Help me! It was a weak, wavering call, unmistakably Tim's. Her breath caught, her heart plummeting. He was still inside, trapped in the shadowy depths of that cursed place. As she peeked back into the gaping maw of the mine, dread and guilt twisted in her gut. Did she dare return? Could she resist the shadows a second time? But it was more than courage or cowardice, it was loyalty. She couldn't leave him. The very thought ignited within her, fierce and burning. I'm coming, she shouted into the darkness. But with those words echoed fears, unanswered questions. What had she unleashed? What lay waiting for her, deeper in the mine? As Emily stepped back, steeling herself for another plunge into the darkness, she wondered if the shadows had merely been the prelude to a horror even greater. What if they were just the beginning? And somewhere within, she felt a new sense of dread. It was beginning. Before she could turn away, a faint shimmer caught her eye. Deeper within the mine's heart, a glimmer of hope, or something far worse. Determined to uncover the truth, she steeled herself, plunging once again into the consuming black of the mine. What awaited her in the shadows? She had to find out. The darkness swallowed Emily whole as she stepped back into the mine, the air thick and stagnant. Every step deeper felt like wrestling with the weight of the shadows clinging to her skin. An unsettling chill prickled at her neck, and she wrapped her arms around herself, as if the darkness itself bore witness to her fear. Tim, she called out again, her voice echoing off the stone walls, fragmented and swallowed by the dismal gloom. A deep-seated dread clawed at her heart as she pressed forward. She needed to find him. The quiet struggle within was fierce. Part of her wanted to cry out for him, while another part felt the mine's grating sorrow wrap around her, threatening to silence her completely. In the distance, a flicker caught her eye. Was it the shimmer she had seen before, or was her mind playing tricks on her? As she moved towards it cautiously, the air thickened, pressing against her chest, squeezing the breath from her lungs. Every inch felt like a mile. She struggled to move, the shadows around her swirling with an unseen energy. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from within the depths. Tim. The sound sent vibrations through her body, sharpening her senses. She stumbled, nearly falling, but the surge of adrenaline propelled her forward. The weight of dread intertwined with a flicker of hope as she pressed on, determined to unearth whatever if it meant saving him. Where are you? She shouted, her voice trembling on the edge of fear and resolve. Each step she took echoed her uncertainty, misgiving growing with the dark. Emily came the faintest whisper, but it was followed by something else. A sound that sent shivers down her spine, the rumbling growl of the shadows, like echoes of 1,000 trapped souls. Her skin prickled, and a cold sweat broke out as she felt them closing in around her. The whisper morphed into a shriek, tugging at her sanity, reverberating within the cavernous walls. They're coming for you. Snapping her head back, she dashed forward, eyes scanning for Tim. Her heart raced as she called out again. I'm here. Hold on. The flicker of light was closer now, shimmering like a mirage. But just as she reached it, she found herself face to face with a series of crude symbols carved into the rock, words that sent nausea twisting in her stomach. They were warnings, ancient warnings that spoke of the mine's treachery and its insatiable hunger for souls. She pressed her palms against the cold stone, trembling at the weight of it all. "What have I done?" she whispered to herself, the shadows curling like tendrils around her legs, pulling her down into a spiral of despair. Then she thought of Tim. His face, bright and laughing, came to her mind like a lifeline. She couldn't let him down. Not now. Not when he needed her the most. With renewed resolve, she grasped the light, the shimmer from earlier illuminating the jagged symbols. And then, she noticed something, a faint outline deeper within, a door half hidden among the rocks. "Tim." Her voice, louder now, surged with a fierce urgency. Whatever trials lay ahead, she would break through. She turned towards the door, pushing against the weight of the shadows, daring them to stop her. But just before she reached it, the darkness writhed violently, as if responding to her defiance. A deep, resonating laugh echoed around her, dark and cruel, chilling her core. "You think you can escape? You are merely a pawn gulping air." Emily felt a wave of panic wash over her, pressing against her chest like a vice. There was an unfathomable presence. She sensed it within the shadows, waiting, watching. Could she overcome them? As she flung open the door, a blinding light erupted from within, and she squinted against its brilliance. But terror gripped her heart. What awaited on the other side? Was it freedom or a far worse fate? Taking a deep breath, Emily stepped through the threshold. Her heart pounded painfully against her ribcage as she crossed into the unknown. What would she find on the other side of the door? Only one way to find out. White light engulfed Emily, wrapping around her like a warm blanket, but it did little to ease the chill that had settled in her bones. She stumbled forward, disoriented, as the blinding glare faded into soft luminescence. With widened eyes, she scanned her surroundings, trying to grasp where the door had taken her. She stood at the edge of what appeared to be an expansive chamber, far from the oppressive tightness of the mine's entrance. The walls glimmered with strange minerals, reflecting the light in a kaleidoscope of muted colors. But beneath the beauty, a sinister undercurrent lurked. An intangible weight hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. "Tim?" she whispered, her voice a fragile echo in the vastness. There was no response. Her hopes clashed with a surge of dread, pushing her heart deeper into her throat. The memories of his laughter were evaporating, replaced with a sense of urgent isolation. Moving cautiously, she stepped further into the room. The ground felt uneven, a stark contrast to the solid earth she'd just traversed. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, dancing just out of reach like uninvited guests. Anxiety tightened her muscles. She could feel something watching her, lurking in the periphery. A noise broke the silence, a soft whimper that sliced through her fear like a knife. "Tim?" She spun around, hope flaring momentarily before it dimmed into uncertainty. The sound had come from somewhere within the chamber, echoing off the walls and growing louder until it morphed into a guttural growl. The air grew thicker, suffused with something acrid and hot as she walked toward the sound. It clawed at her lungs, making her gasp for fresh air. And then she saw him, Tim, bound in chains, slumped against the stone wall at the far end. Shock and fear etched into his features. "Emily!" His voice was hoarse, desperation spilling from him like a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. As she rushed to him, the chains rattled in an unsettling rhythm. Each step felt like a battle. With every inch closer, the growl morphed into a howl, filling the air with a chorus of anguished cries. "No, no!" Tim shouted, panic erupting as he struggled against his restraints. "You can't be here. It's dangerous." The shadows twisted and rose, shapes forming that defied all understanding. Sinister silhouettes emerged from the darkness, wraith-like figures that seemed to have been born from the very essence of fear. Their hollow eyes locked onto Emily, seizing her with an icy grip of dread. "Tim, I won't leave you," she cried, her resolve hardening against the tide of terror threatening to wash over her. A rumble beneath her feet emphasized the urgency of her decision. Everything began to tremble, the ground, the walls, the shadows. The creature's whispers crescendoed into cacophonous shrieks, echoing her fears. "You must flee. Flee now," they chanted in unison, an unholy chorus of despair. "No," she roared over the noise, the power of her voice cutting through the chaos. She fell to her knees beside Tim, desperate to free him. Frantically, she scanned the chains for a lock or a way to sever them, but the dark energy surrounding them seemed to repel her touch. "Emily, listen," Tim gasped, eyes darting to the shifting shadows. "They'll take you too. You need to go." But another growl erupted, louder and more menacing. Something was coming. The creatures were no longer just watching. They were preparing to strike. Sensing the danger was reaching a breaking point, Emily pulled with all her strength on Tim's chains, her nails digging into the chill of the metal. It wouldn't break. She couldn't give up. All around them, the shadows moved, ever closer, filled with malice. Emily's breath hitched in her throat as she realized the darkness wasn't merely watching. It was feeding on their fear. "Please," she screamed, desperation spilling from her in frantic waves. "Not now." In that moment, a spark ignited, igniting a flicker of possibility within her. She could fight back. Tim needed her too. Before she could act, a figure lunged from the shadows, and Emily's heart plummeted. Was it too late? With adrenaline pumping through her veins, she realized she had just one chance. As darkness threatened to engulf them both, she prepared to face whatever loomed in the shadows. Would her courage be enough to save Tim? Or would they both fall prey to the mind's insatiable hunger? In that crucial second, she took a deep breath, ready to unleash her final stand. What awaited them in this chamber of despair? Only the shadows seemed to know. As the figure lunged from the shadows, Emily's heart raced. Time stretched, a taut wire ready to snap. It was a creature draped in darkness, its form amorphous and shifting, eyes burning with an unnatural glow. The growl morphed into a deafening roar that rattled the very core of her being. "Emily, run!" Tim shouted, his voice slicing through the chaotic din. He struggled harder against the chains, desperation fueling his movements despite their firm grip. The shadows writhed around them, the bodies of the wraiths merging and splitting, their mournful screams vibrating through the air like a dissonant symphony. But Emily didn't move. Fear paralyzed her, but a flicker of determination ignited deep within. How could she leave Tim? The creature's presence sent pulses of dread coursing through her, but the agony in Tim's eyes ignited something stubborn and fierce. With a blood-curdling shriek, the creature soared towards them, its jagged mouth gaping wide, ready to consume them whole. Emily could see the grotesque teeth glinting like shards of glass, even in the dim light. "Now!" Tim's voice became a distant echo as he tugged at the restraints with renewed vigor. "You can't let it touch you." She leaped to her feet, instinct overpowering her terror. Facing the monstrous shadow, she clenched her fists, the sharp edges of her nails biting into her palms. The air quaked, and she felt the ground slip beneath her, swaying to the creature's rhythm. She could taste the acrid emotions: fear, hopelessness clinging to her throat like poison. "Get away from him!" Emily shouted, fiercer than she ever thought she could be. The words surged out like an incantation, reverberating off the chamber walls. The shadows stopped momentarily, bewilderment cloaking the terrifying visage. "Emily!" Tim gasped, disbelief carving his features. "What are you doing?" "Finding the light," she replied, though she felt unsteady, as if the floor itself might cave in. She thought of Tim, his laughter, the moments they would lose if they fell into darkness. The shadows hesitated but stirred, hunger flickering in their depths. She remembered the legends spoken around campfire, stories of brave warriors wresting power from fear and turning it back on their foes. Emily drew upon deep reservoirs of willpower, visualizing a golden glow emanating from her heart, illuminating her body like a shield against the encroaching darkness. As she lifted her hands, the air thick with tension, the shadows recoiled momentarily. Then, the monster lunged again, moving faster than before, an embodiment of dread and despair. "Tim, I won't let them take you," She surged forward, channeling every ounce of strength toward her friend. But a flicker of doubt is a dangerous companion, seeping into her resolve. What if this was futile? Would they end up enslaved to the mine's shadows, forever lost in fear's grip? In that fleeting moment, the creature locked eyes with her, its gaze penetrating and laden with malevolence. She gasped, fear clawing at her heart. They were more than shadows, they were her darkest insecurities, manifesting to tear her apart. Then she heard it, a soft whisper rising above the chaos. "You are not alone." The voice was like a balm, soothing her frayed nerves and lending her courage. "What?" she breathed, but she never took her eyes off the creature as it drew closer. "Together. You are stronger together," the voice urged, unmistakably Tim's, intertwining with her thoughts as a familiar warmth radiated. The chains rattled violently, and Tim's eyes widened with a newfound zeal. "Don't think of them. Focus on us." Emily nodded, their connection solidifying like an unbreakable bond. With a rush of fierce love for Tim and a determination not to lose him, she stepped forward, ready to confront the embodiment of fear. Would she harness the strength of their bond to sever the chains binding them both? The shadows lurked, waiting for their moment, but Emily stood her ground. A blaze of defiance ignited in her heart. Now it was time for the true battle to begin. As the creature lunged once more, a flash of clarity struck. Was this battle even real? What if it was all just a test of their resolve? The truth loomed just beyond the reaches of understanding. Would they survive, or would fear claim them forever? As the creature lunged, the world around Emily exploded into chaos. The shadows writhed and twisted, but something within her ignited. It was a fire fueled by love, resilience, and the unbreakable bond she shared with Tim. "Tim, hold on," she shouted, her voice resonating through the chamber like thunder, a response to the growl that filled the air with darkness. She was not just battling a creature. She was confronting the embodiment of every fear that had ever held her back. In that moment, she felt the warmth surge through her, illuminating her heart and pushing back against the cold grip of despair. Emily held her ground, bracing herself against the onslaught. "You cannot take us," she screamed, as if defying a storm. The shadows paused, caught off guard by her fierce declaration. With every fiber of her being, she visualized the light within her illuminating the darkness. "Together, Tim," she called, channeling her thoughts toward him, desperate to forge a connection stronger than the shackles binding him. Cleaving through the shadows, she sprinted toward him, heart pounding like a war drum. Tim's eyes flickered with newfound hope, the chains rattling as he pushed against them. Their connection seemed to pierce through the very veil of the dark, a thread of undeniable strength pulling them together. "I'm here. You will not take him," she cried, her voice rising to a fever pitch. Bolstered by her conviction, she reached toward the chains, determination surging through her limbs. "Break these chains." As she grasped the cold metal, she felt an unfamiliar warmth flood her fingers. A radiant pulse emanated from her heart, spilling outwards like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. To her surprise, the chains began to soften, their solidity giving way. They clinked away, swallowing the darkness around them. The shadows screeched, their hunger growing ravenous at the sight of their fading power. Like a serpent, the creature slithered closer, its grotesque visage melding from the pitch black. "You think you can escape me?" it hissed, the words oozing malice. Emily turned her attention to Tim, bolstered by his fierce gaze. "We're stronger together. Focus on the light." She felt the unity of their spirits, a torrent of hope joining them like a gust of wind, pushing back against the darkness attempting to engulf them. Tim drew a deep breath, and together they chanted as one, voices overlapping into a powerful anthem against the encroaching shadows. "We are not afraid. We will not yield." The shadows shrieked in fury, but with each syllable, the darkness twisted, shrank, broke apart, losing its hold on their minds. With a mighty pull, Emily yanked at the chains until they shattered like glass. The creature hissed, lashing out in anger. "Run," she shouted, pulling Tim close. With adrenaline pumping, They sprinted towards the exit of the chamber, the passageway glowing brighter with each step they took. But the creature was not defeated. It screeched, the sound ricocheting through the chamber, trying to assert its power once more. The air trembled under the strain, shadows clawing at Emily's heels. Tim's hand clasped tight around hers, their resolve unshakable against the darkness that wished to consume them. As they neared the exit, time felt elastic, every moment stretching into an eternity. The light beckoned like a lifeline, urging them toward freedom. Emily felt a surge of hope blossom within her. Recognizing that they were in control now, fear did not define her. "Keep going," she urged. "We're almost there." With every ounce of strength, they surged forward, the light pulsing with an energy that was magnetic. The shadows' cries faded behind them, the air cooling as they broke through the threshold, bursting into bright sunlight. In that moment, all feelings of dread peeled away as they tumbled onto the ground, breathing deeply, drinking in the liberating warmth. Emily's heart raced, pounding with adrenaline and relief, every fear that had gripped her now dissipating into the air. Did we make it?" Tim stammered, scanning the deserted mine entrance, but Emily could only nod, tears of joy cascading down her cheeks. "Yes, we did it." They embraced tightly, their hearts weaving a newfound bond of resilience and love, something that neither the mine nor the shadows could ever take from them again. They stood together, regaining their breath and savoring the crisp air, the warmth of the sun wrapping around them like a protective embrace. The mine's darkness whispered at the edges, but it felt powerless, diminished by their shared strength. The shadows that once loomed over them now seemed just that, shadows, scattered remnants of what had been. Emily felt lighter, as if an invisible weight had been lifted. They had faced unimaginable horrors, yet here they stood, together stronger than before. As they turned away from the mine, the strength of their friendship shone brighter than any darkness could hope to blanket. They walked toward the horizon, glancing back one last time at the looming maw of the mine, the weight of its secrets destined to remain buried. What lay ahead was uncertain, but whatever terrors or trials awaited them, Emily knew they would forge forward together, forever undeterred. For they had already faced the darkness and emerged into the light. This is your moment, and it's the perfect time to embrace the power of sharing stories that touch the heart. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm with good vibes. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending because we want to hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. They'll thank you for it. Only true fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.